Welcome to a very special edition of Unpack, as we have a very special guest with us, Andrew O'Keefe of Studio Alto. And Andrew, I'll let you tell us what Studio Alto does.
We specialise in brand marketing and communication for the education and knowledge sector.
Perfect. So we have Andrew here today to talk about the report they put out recently called Selling the Dream, Messaging Trends in Tertiary Education. And we thought it'd be great to have Andrew on and talk about this because we too have a lot of clients in the education sector. So we thought it might be good to just talk about some of those insights and opportunities. And also I feel like it translates well to any marketer who's selling a particular experience in terms of how they're framing their messaging, how you're talking to your audience, things like that. So hopefully it'll be useful. So we'll just dive right in. Do you want to give us a rundown of what Selling the Dream is and what it did?
Sure. So Selling the Dream initially was just a bit of a, we should do this. We were working on two projects in the education sector of repositioning two tertiary education brands. And we thought, in our research phase, we thought there's so many similar messages out here. And there's kind of a bit of a stereotype in the market that they all say the same thing. So we thought, do they all say the same thing? So at the start of last year, we embarked on what turned out to be quite a big journey in doing a survey of over 100 tertiary education brands in Australia and New Zealand, so both higher ed and vocational ed. And we visited all their websites, all their social media platforms to try and uncover all the messages. And then once we did that, we started to categorise them into different themes, just to see what the messages were.
It was compelling to me, I mean, partly aesthetically, but it was also compelling because we do a lot of work in the education field, and it feels rare that you get such sort of succinct insights into what the messaging is. Like you said, there's all these sort of stereotypes around the themes that are explored, but to sort of see that in a really concise and compelling way was unique. So can you kind of walk us through how you grouped the messages that you found?
So we knew that there would be a future category. That was kind of the most obvious one. We knew there would be a jobs category.
Yep.
So they started to fall into that immediately. And then other ones that started to emerge were one that we labelled passion and purpose, which is basically follow what you love. Another one that came through, and this probably appealed most to me, even though I'm not the market for these messages, was think differently, which is more of kind of an entrepreneurial mindset coming through, and basically saying the world needs to change, is changing. The way we used to do things is not the way we need to do things in the future. So how can we think differently?
And why was that more compelling for you?
I think because it bucked the trend of just saying your future starts here.
Right.
It was saying, okay, the world's not perfect, and if you want to be someone who is a change maker, this is the place for you.
Yeah.
So that we found that came through only from universities, and mostly from the group of 8 research universities.
Okay. I think the college I went to, actually, their exact motto was "Your future starts here."
I think mine was too.
Or something like that. So what were some examples in that Think Differently category that you were interested in? Yeah,
2 that stood out to me, and one that came up halfway through our research was from Monash University. They had a campaign called Change It, which was quite almost confrontational when you put it side by side with these kind of inspirational messages. It was like, well, the world's not perfect. If you want to do something about it, you've got to go change it. Another campaign I liked was Unlearn from University of Sydney, which is basically, as I said before, the way that we've done the things in the past aren't necessarily the ways we should do them in the future. So it's, that was a different take. What we observed with all of these top-level marketing campaigns was that they were directed predominantly towards young people. So if you kind of want to categorise, it's the Gen Z, young adult, school leaver kind of cohort. So the research that we sourced around that cohort was looked at what their expectations were when they were leaving school, what they wanted to do after school, what they wanted out of life and learning. And what we found came through was that the top thing that young people wanted was to be happy.
Right.
And that material gains and their career was further down the list of needs. It was more about mental well-being, belonging to something, feeling happy. Yeah. That were
And
main
so,
takeaways.
yeah, I was intrigued by that. I mean, partly because there's so much content now around Gen Z as an audience and how to talk to them and what's meaningful for them. And there's like this happiness craze in a way, so that wasn't necessarily surprising, but what made that meaningful in this context? What made that meaningful for school marketers? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I suppose what we observed there was if you've got 20% of your marketing in that survey that we did saying it's all about jobs.
Yeah, right.
We're going to get you a job. These are the pathways to a job. It's not really the top of the priority for what we found in that survey.
Yep.
So there was a bit of a kind of a difference there, I suppose.
One thing I also found interesting was how you talked about students as consumers and institutions sort of approaching them in that way, partly because we sort of did a bit of research in the like primary, secondary school messaging and found a lot of the same thing, but they were really talking to parents, and it was like parents as consumers. So everything was really product oriented, like here's the facilities, here's the programs we have.
Yep.
It was a really interesting pattern to see play out in like so many schools. So yeah, how did you see that play out, and do you think that'll shift?
Yeah, it was interesting with a lot of the reading that we did. There was two camps basically saying, okay, we need to have a more mature approach to marketing and branding and recognise that the student is a consumer like they are of any other consumer products.
Sure.
They're savvy, we need to talk to them in the same way. Whereas the other camp says they're not a consumer, they're a partner in education. So we should treat them that way.
Yeah.
And there should be a different conversation going on. And there was a survey that we dug up that found that 50% of students at university in the UK felt like they were consumers of their university. So 50-50 split. I think that maybe that's one of the factors that contributes to a lot of the messaging coming out of the sector as being conservative.
Yeah, right.
Because they're not going really hard on, this is a consumer product. It's still, some people feel like it should be more of a relationship rather than a transaction, I suppose.
Yeah. What are your predictions for the next while?
Yeah, I think the two that came through in our middle bracket, which was passion and purpose and think differently, I think they are going to rise up.
Okay.
And I think the messages about, the vague messages about future maybe drop off a little bit.
Okay.
Because people have heard those. There's nothing new there. It's the stereotype. So that would be my prediction. Initially, we thought we would revisit this each year.
Yeah.
Don't think we were going to.
No, okay. That's way too much work.
I think we've got a great grasp on
maybe in like
where it's
5
at
or
the
10
moment.
years.
Yeah, to see how it's moved on. I don't think it's going to move. I think it's going to move at a glacial pace, really.
So just really quickly, what's the next iteration of this for you guys? Like, what's next from Studio Alto?
What next? Something different. We're producing a series called Change One Thing, where we talk to experts in and around the education sector about if they could change one thing to have the most positive impact, what might that be?
Cool. I can attest. It's a beautiful website. All right. Well, that is all we have time for. Andrew, thanks for joining us. It's lovely to talk to you. Hopefully that was useful for everyone. If you have a question, comment, whatever, throw it in the comment section or get in touch. Thanks so much. Bye.